All right. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm hoping that we don't have a crackly microphone. I actually do not have the microphone on me. I have it away from me a little bit, so hopefully the sound is okay. Please let me know one way or the other if you're having difficulties hearing me or if our technical issues from last week have persist. I tried troubleshooting. I can't for the life of me see what caused the issues. So anyway, if you can let me know, that would be great. Hope everyone's doing good. Tina, good to have you with us. That's nice you're doing a painting class. Good for you. Awesome. Good stuff. Lulu, Jose, and everyone else who is there. Hope everyone's doing good. Lovely model today. And some poses which feel familiar and yet somehow new. James, how you doing? Good to have you along. You sound just a bit far. I appreciate that. Honestly, I think it's better that you might have to turn up at your end just a little bit. I think it's better that I don't have the mic on me. I don't know, as I said, I reviewed last week's video and I can't understand why the crackling just started spontaneously and then stopped as spontaneously. I don't know, I need a new mic, but that's going to have to wait just a little bit. So you're just going to have to bear with me. Hope everyone's good. Oh, I do want to share something. In fact, I've worked on this just... Hold on. Saw Margot's name in the chat and it reminded me of this. So, remember we worked on this pose and we talked about taking concepts of light and tone further. Don't know if it would help doing a close-up on this. Possibly. I wanted to just talk real quickly just about light and tone and my process going in on this one. So basically, you know, we talked about... Oh, that won't help. There we go. The concept being... I wish I'd taken progress photos. I didn't, unfortunately. But I basically went in, if you may recall, I'd done a basic shadow mapping on this. I went in and I basically just went, as I talked about before, just differentiated everything that was in light and everything that was in tone. And everything that was in tone got a clear, or not a clear, a solid, consistent tone throughout the whole form. So for example, in this section here, obviously in here coming through, a little bit lighter in here because obviously this is the lit side of the form and the shadows should never be as dark in the lit side of the form as they are in the shadow side of the form. But suffice to say, went in, filled all of these large areas with a tone that was probably tonal range wise around in this region, right, give or take. I've blended a little here, so it may have been a little bit darker or a little bit lighter, I don't recall. Now here's the thing, when you start then finding your darkest darks, right, we don't have too many here actually, we've got a few pockets, right, so we've got this region in here, then we've got this section in here, and then we've got basically a little pocket in here and actually a little bit under in this area here in our cast shadow. Now, as soon as you start putting in these darker darks, for example, if you take this section here, let me just go close again on this. I did it again, didn't I? There we go. One of these days, I'll get it figured out. Anyway, when you start then, so you've got everything in roughly in the, right, pretty much in the same tonal range. Then when you take a section like this, for example, which is darker, we're going into almost into black here. Notice how then you start to get the illusion of reflected bounce light in this area here, right? Same in here. Because this is darker, you kind of get you get more of the sense of bounce light. And the same thing in here. Now you reinforce that. Sorry, you can't see that in this section here. So what you do is to reinforce that idea is then I went back in and I just reinforced a few of these core shadows. Once again, a little bit darker, right? Same thing in here. And that then helps push the illusion that we've got bounced or reflected light. So it's really, for me, once again, same thing, same idea here. And then what I also did is then I would go in with my finger and I would start pulling out charcoal even more, just very gently in these areas that I want to give this sense of bounce light. You know, even in here, for example, small little passage, this was all the same tonal range, but just pulling out a little bit of charcoal right there, start to get the illusion of the bounce light. So that's pretty much what, you know, we talked about taking one of these further, and that was pretty much the process with that. Okay, so I hope that helps. And today we've got poses that I think could potentially lend themselves to going into that level of exploration. If I do a diagrammatical drawing that I feel is worth spending the time on, I will certainly, I'll consider pushing to that level of finish, okay? So anyway, that's something, as I said, I just wanted to share that with you. I think hopefully it's useful, because it's very easy for light and tone to, as we've talked about before, get muddled, and it can start feeling very overly complicated. I've mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. A very, well, rather famous director that we were roommates for a while when we were kids, when I was like 19. He made a very interesting comment, which was the image has to be able to read as well on a postage stamp as it does on a billboard. What does he mean by that? What he's talking about is keeping your relationships really clear, right? What is in light? What is in shadow? If you start with that single kind of tone for everything that's in shadow, you get that kind of poster type of effect, right? The lit side, the shadow side. It's overly simplistic, but it gives you a very clear graphic kind of statement about what it is that you're saying. Then you can push further. What are the half tones in the lit side of the form? What maybe in the shadow side of the form do you want to take to darker darks, or even down to closer to black, so that you've got those dark pockets which can then help give the illusion of reflected light, and so on and so forth, right? So for me it's a kind of back and forth balancing act. I think that there's a tendency, as we said before, there's a tendency for people to focus, to try and copy what's in front of them. You end up with way too many halftones in the shadow side or in the lit side of the form, and things get really muddy and unclear. It really is always a case of less is more, less is more, less is more. Okay? So I hope that is useful. I know we've discussed this stuff a bunch of times, but for those of you who might be, you know, coming to this for the first time. Wonderful. Let's get going, huh? Timer has started. Let's do this. A pose like this really does kind of require that we draw the whole thing. so that's what we'll do. Great model. We haven't drawn her before. She's incredibly a great reference pack. She's got some great poses. Obviously, we're going to just only hit the tip of the iceberg with them, but for those of you who are so inclined, it's definitely a reference pack that I think you might get some value out of. Okay. I'm drawing what looks incredibly light. You're going to have to bear with me, I'm afraid. I'm really trying to make an effort to not have my drawings get so filthy as we go. So I'm going to be drawing a little bit lighter in these early stages. And hopefully that will pay off. This is really the gestural stage, isn't it? Like, simple shapes, looking for long rhythmical ideas. Look at the way, for example, the spine or the center line of the back of the form almost kind of works into like this calf, for example. Right, we get this beautiful kind of rhythmical idea there. We're looking for those kind of opportunities as much as possible because they really do, those gestural rhythmical ideas really do pay dividends later on in the process. Scapula kind of compressed towards the center of the form. This arm is more foreshortened than this right one. When you're looking at a pose like this, try and take just a very kind of objective look at, for example, the relationship between the two arms, the shapes that they're both kind of bringing to the table, and the differences between the two. It'd be very easy to look at those two and say, oh, they're pretty much the same. But when you make a closer analysis, you'll notice that they're really very different to each other. Occipital ridge, trapezius, deltoid, tricep. We got this kind of feeling of the lower torso going away from us, kind of going in this direction, and then the upper torso kind of more horizontal, more straight onto us. So we want to really try and bring that illusion into our work, if at all possible. Hey Milo, you're just back from a live figure drawing session. Nice. I need to do a live figure drawing session. So, yeah, crest going up this way, rib cage coming down this way, and the oblique passage setting in there. We do need to draw in the stick. Now, it's so easy to forget like these large ideas. It's kind of important, at least to suggest it. Okay. We've got the deltoid sitting here and our trapezius. Trapezius. Deltoid. Bicep. Okay. Latissimus. Coming down this way. Oh, we just see a kind of peak of the rib cage coming in through here into our compression point here. See the pectoral just ever so slightly. The breast sitting there. We actually get there's a tiny peak of the breast on this side too. Something like that. Jose says, having trouble in how her right leg joins the hip. Okay. I can understand why you feel that way. One of the reasons being because it doesn't have an easy sense of tension. Like, you know, the foot is relaxed, and so it's harder to see. Basically, what you're looking at here, if you look at where the sacrum is, right, we can see our think it's actually a little bit higher than I drew it originally. Probably about there, right? Sacral dimple sitting here and here. And we can draw like a line, even though we can't really see it, but we know that the iliac crest is coming this way, right? Same on this side. Iliac crest going around this way. And then if we come down from that, right, with our triangle, come down to the gluteus here. And this is coming down, gluteus is coming down this way. Something like that. Now if we come back to just this idea of like iliac crest coming this way, right? The great trochanter, the femur connects with the pelvis right around here, okay? Then the great trochanter comes out this way, and this is where the widest point of the leg is, right? Then the femur comes down and down to the knee joint here. Now if we look at the same concept on this side, right, we come to just create our butterfly motif, right? Great head of the femur meets with the pelvis here. Great trochanter comes down this way. That's why the widest point of the hip is here, right? Makes sense? So we come down like so, and we come down this way, and then we make our turn. It's because of the femur and obviously the muscle sitting on top. So don't take this too literally, right? This is all sitting under basically quite a bit of material, right? The iliotibial tract, for example, is coming down this way, coming off the tensor fasciae latae and gluteus medius and those types of things, right? Vastus lateralis is obviously part of the quadriceps system, which is also going to be adding to that mass. But the way that I tend to try and think of it, right, Jose, is I find the butterfly motif, right, sitting in there, coming up, same thing on this side, sitting in here, and you know that that's the connection point, and then coming out from that, coming down and out is going to give us our widest point of the hip. Okay, so that's what you want to be looking for. Hope that makes sense. Okay, let's keep going. It's understandably confusing. It took me a while to kind of understand the ins and outs of what's going on there, because yeah, it's confusing. I think I'm going to make this leg a little bit longer. I think it needs it. Yeah. So, once again, calf coming down, right? Coming down, Achilles tendon coming down this way. I'm just going to bring down the leg down to about there. Same on this side, because our heel is lower, right? If we look at where the heel is here, this one's settled down here. vertical line sitting there. Alright, let's get in a little bit of core shadow. I don't know if we have to go nuts with it, but I think once again it will just be useful for describing form. Cast shadow coming down from here. The light is very coming from very high, right? Obviously we have a secondary light coming from her left, and we can actually see it in the image by her left hand, which is giving a kind of a rim light effect on the one side, but the main light source is almost kind of coming from what we could call like 1 o'clock, right? If we were looking at a clock dial. So what ends up happening is we get a lot of lit form up here, and then as this form turns away, we go into shadow. But then look how, as this form comes back this way, it comes into light again, right? So we're going to use that to help describe how these forms are, where they're sitting in space in relationship to the light. So kind of lit, tone, all in this section, lit, and then tone as we come down to the gluteus down here. And as this form turns in space from this plane here, we get our core shadow coming in this way. Again, as I usually do, I'm going to ignore the secondary light source for the most part. I might put it in as kind of as a bounce light idea, but I just really don't find it necessary. So all of this will be in tone. Once again, as we were just discussing, simple, simple, simple. Great, glad to hear. Yeah, you know, Jose, strongly recommend when you find yourself posing a question like that in your drawing, it's a good opportunity to open your anatomy resource and have a look and go, okay, what is going on there? Where's the difficulty? What's the region that's giving me difficulty? And what can I maybe look at to help explain it, right? And that's why I'm such a firm believer in, you know, we can, the journey with anatomy is incremental and ongoing, right? As we find ourselves presented with new challenges or new ideas, we're only going to know what our questions are through the repetition of drawing, and we need to just make analysis. So once again, just going in, single tone. Right. Don't make it any more complicated than it needs to be. You're very welcome. Ro, is it? No? Sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Always embarrass myself with pronunciation. Anyway, I appreciate the comment. Thank you. Alright, I think for a warm-up, what we'll do is, this music's killing me. Now, this is where we could start going in and saying to ourselves, okay, where's our darker darks? Cast shadows tend to be darker, right? So we've got cast shadow sitting in here. We could start to express these ideas, right? And just slowly start to build up where those ideas are. And then, as I said, you'll almost get that bounce light concept for free, right? As we could start pulling out strong cast. So this is a great example. Okay, so check this out. This area right here, it's all in the same tonal range. We've done the basic idea of what's in light, what's in shadow. Now, as you can see, below this buttock, we've got a cast shadow, right? And we can actually see, you could almost kind of create a, in the shadow side of the form, you could almost create another thing here. But our cast shadow is sitting in here. Right? Something like that. Look how we immediately get the sense of reflected light now in the buttocks. You want to reinforce that, take it one step further. I'm actually just going to move to a different pencil here, just for this thing. So if I pump up the core shadow on the buttocks in here, it's kind of hard because this drawing is kind of small, but if I just a tiny bit of reinforcement of these core shadows, And we'll just blend that just ever so slightly. Soften it up a little bit. Now look how we get the illusion of reflected light sitting in here and in here in this whole section, right? Just by adding that, like knocking down the intensity of that cast shadow a couple of notches, we get more dynamics. We start building up the dynamics. But in my opinion, you don't want to do that until you've made the clear boundaries of what's in light and what's in shadow, right? Then you can look at going to that next step. And I did like barely touch this drawing with the cast shadow. You could obviously always take these things further, but I think it's just as a simple idea, by incorporating the cast shadow there and darkening this area, we then get that we change the dynamics of what's happening up here, right? So it doesn't have to be complicated. It's about simplification. We could go further in a more detailed thing. We could be talking more about what's going on maybe in the halftones of the lit side of the form here, which is kind of taking the conversation to another stage. But I can just very lightly, I don't know how much you guys can see that's on camera, but you know, even just by very lightly pulling out just a little bit here and there, I'm now starting to add another level of dynamics to the lit side of the form, right? Just by very, very subtly, don't use the eraser to fix mistakes. Use the eraser to pull out lights. So you can now go in, and this is the beauty of charcoal, is you've got the material on the page that's going to give you the subtlety of these ranges. It's more of a tug of war with graphite, in my opinion, but it's certainly doable. Anyway, we're going to have more of a close-up. I'm going to be able to draw larger on the next drawing, and maybe if we have more opportunities to talk about these things, I'll bring them up. All right, I think that's a good place to stop with that one. Yeah. All right. Take care, James. See ya. Okay. Let's have a look at the next pose. This is a great pose, isn't it? Yeah, I saw this pose. I'm like, there was actually a few in this set that I kind of felt the same way about. I picked out a couple of them for today and saved some for another time, but we've got our work cut out here. Okay, let me reset the clock. Let's draw. Now, I want to be careful where I place her form. Shoulders. Once again, very kind of, the pose that very much lends itself to gestural ideas. Upper lower torso. very clearly see at this point here the transition of the rib cage. I know that rib cage is sitting in here. I'm just going to find the sacrum, the approximate location of the sacrum, just so. And we can see the dimples once again, right? It's sitting approximately there. The crest is going to be coming up this way. That's enough for now. You know, we'll probably get pushed and pulled, but this leg. Coming up. Just trying to get an approximate knees about here. Obviously this leg is going away from us. So I'm just going to use a very simple shape for it for now. Something like that. Elbow sitting on the knee. Actually get a sense of the forearm sitting there, but heavily foreshortened. So wrist actually finishes about there. I'm just going to be sitting about there. Yeah, heavily foreshortened arm, her right arm. So you do want to be careful with it. Scapula. Sitting on the side of the form, sitting about here. Coming over. Chromium processing about here, deltoid, very, very short passage for the biceps sitting in there. These are certainly some of the trickier kind of foreshortening projects that you're going to have to deal with. Keeping the proportions, we'll resolve this as we go. It's a placeholder for now. Okay. Look just here, like if we come down from this crease here, if you actually look right in here, that's the widest point of the leg. Once again, that's where the great trochanter has gone down and it's pushing out the hips there. And as we know, on women, generally speaking, that tends to, the hips are wider, right? So you get an exaggeration of that feeling in that area there, as opposed to the male form. so let's come around to this. So our scapula, this arm's going up, our scapula is going up this way. Great trochanter sitting about there, and we can see that scapula doing that. So you can get a sense where the deltoid is sitting here. So we know the humerus is coming up this way. Something like that. You've got some really lovely separation between light and tone, and hopefully you can just get a really clear sense of obviously what's in light, what's in shadow. We can shadow map this one very, very easily, and then you can start to get a hint of where the reflected light is, right? You look for, well, we'll get to it, but you know, in this whole section in here, it's quite a bit lighter than where the core shadow is, and so we can already get a sense of how we're going to solve this puzzle. And luckily, this one is a relatively straightforward puzzle to solve. Right, let's some trapezius coming up this way here. Long line of the tricep going up to the elbow. Wrist is sitting about here, coming up. Our hand is sitting about here. Something like that. Alright, we've got the, excuse the pun, we've got the bones of it down. Now let's get into it. Interested in how you're going to solve that left shoulder. Well, if you think about it, like let's just make that analysis one more time, okay? Because I think it's in my opinion, this is in some ways this is clearer than what was going on with the leg in the last pose. But we can see the scapula, right, sitting in this region here. We can almost see, because of the shadow, we can see the ridge of the scapula coming up this way, right? We can't see it, but we can, because of this compression point right here, this compression point, if you do this, right, you can feel that dimple. That's where your acromion process is, right? So we know that the acromion process, just by virtue of just making that analysis, we know that the acromion process is sitting here, right? And the deltoid, as you can see, is attached to the ridge back here, and it kind of comes down this way, and it comes across like so, and then it kind of attaches obviously to the humerus. We know, because we can see the acromion process here, we know the head of the humerus is sitting right about here, right? and then the humerus is going up, continuing its journey up that way. So there's not full of puns today. So there's not too many moving parts as far as our checklist of how to make the analysis of what's going on. You've heard me say, Jose, you've been doing this a while. You've heard me talk about the landmarks, ACEs, chromium process, the sacrum, right? Sacral dimples. We've got these manubrium. These, in my opinion, are more important than knowing all the little muscles, the 8 muscles of the forearm, right? The extensors and the flexors. You can group some of these things. But to me, I get much more mileage out of knowing where that acromion process is, and knowing how to look at something and saying, okay, I know it's at the end of the scapula, right? So if I know that, then I can I know how then the deltoid is going to be attached, right? Comes back to that thing of you get much more mileage out of those, right? Something to keep in mind. Okay, let's I'm actually going to get into I'm going to map my core shadows now, because it could help influence where I end up putting how intense I get with my line. So I'm actually going to shift pencils. Let's use this sucker. Okay, and I will start up here as it's clear. So we got that core shadow right here, right? That's being created by the ridge of the scapula coming down into the tricep, sitting in here. Then the muscle, we got this transition here, we got the core shadow then coming down this way, coming down. Coming down this way. And reaching up with that lumbar muscle. That's the lovely thing about an image like this is there's just no ambiguity about what is in light and what is in shadow. All of this is going to be in tone, essentially, right? Her whole left leg. Yes, we're going to put reflected light, or we'll get the illusion of reflected light in the buttock here, as we can see it in this region here, compared to what's going on in the passage of the leg here. But a lot of our work is done for us. I think it was growing up with my parents listening to Richard Clayderman that makes me so intolerant of those types of piano solos. Shadow. Michael asks, hello, Michael. Do you observe more or draw what you know? That is the key, isn't it? Is to draw not only what we see, but what we know. That's been my mantra for as long as I can remember at this point. No, absolutely. We are doing knowledge-based drawing, right? I like to use the language analogy, you know? It's like you will, as an infant, you will copy somewhat blindly your parents. But as you get a command for the language, you shift from blindly copying to making decisions and sentences based on what you know, right? I can't take credit for these ideas, they're not mine. They come from people that figured this stuff out before me. If you're only copying, you're just going to be severely limited in how much you'll ever be able to evolve. You've got to get enough of a knowledge base down so that you can, you can make informed decisions. Let's just get a little bit of blend in. I don't normally work in this order, but just kind of curious. Mix things up a little. And I'm just blending with the material that's already on the page. I'm not adding anything here. Okay. Let's go in and, more of that kind of piano. Stop. No, it's all good, Jose. That one type of music is just unacceptable. Yeah, I have a few of them. That's one of them. And anything that sounds like a Pixar soundtrack has to go. Alright, let's keep going here. Trapezius right here to where the acromion processes and the deltoid. Going into the bicep. So we've got the pectoral muscle that's going to be coming down this way and then meeting up with the mass of the breast that's sitting in here. always try and think about where something has come from or where it's going to, even though we only see the breast reveal itself here and here. Ask yourself, yeah, but you know where it's attached, you know where the pectoral muscle's attached, right? And think about the fact that this is a line that's essentially revealing itself here, but the connection point is up here, right? At the clavicle or with the humerus, and try and be thoughtful in those decision making, in those decisions that we make, right? Richard, I notice that you don't often accentuate occlusion shadow, like in the case under the buttocks and leg. Is there a reason for that, or is it breast breaking with the rhythm of personal choice? No, I think what it comes down to is really that, generally speaking, we don't take drawings that far, right? Or I don't tend to take drawings that far on the stream. If I'm going to get into darker darks, and I'm going to start expanding the range of the tones that I'm using in the shadow side of the form, then that's where I'll start to introduce it. I'll put it in here as well, just because you know, you make a good point. Maybe that it's not just a personal style or breaking a rhythm thing. You could argue that you should be able to find opportunities to bring rhythmical ideas in with the occlusion, right? Cast shadow. Alright, you see, we've got a Pixar song now. I swear they're listening to me, and now they're trying to upset me. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, so even though I'm going to end up pushing the whole tonal range a little bit more, obviously, it's kind of useful even at this point to be able to see very basically where the cast shadows are and the core shadows. Well, core shadows really. I haven't really dealt with cast shadow yet. Right, so we've got our compression right here, obviously. Widest point of the hip right there. And we've got a little compression fold right here. And then we're coming into the journey of the rib cage, meeting up with the scapula. You can see the journey of the ribcage continuing up here. Because the scapula, because of the foreshortening and just the general angle and what she's doing with her arm, the scapula is really kind of pushed around to the side of the form. Tricep. So coming in off the trapezius here, and once again it's subtle, but we've got that little transition right there. That's where our acromion process is, right there. So we know once again that's our attachment point for the deltoid, and it's the end point of the scapula, etc. Deltoid, heavily foreshortened arm, right? Coming down. Wrist, sitting there. All right, we've gotten there. So this is an interesting leg because everything's in shadow, but then it has some of its own ideas too. So still want to keep those relationships simple. Alright. So, time for a little bit of a blend, a bit of clean up, and we'll probably get close to calling it. Looks like something from AliExpress. Well, that's funny, but I don't think that's fair. Fair of you to say that about your own work. Yeah, a bit clumsy, this drawing, actually. It's fine. Maybe we can still retrieve it, let's see. You might have to pull out some lights in the lit side of the form, which will help. So my hands are getting too dirty. Hi Rick, how you doing, man? From TV. You guys are funny. I hope you're good. Some serious pulling of lights out to do in some areas. Drawing just got too dirty. Anyway, let's see. Let's see if we can salvage it. too kind. There could be a strong temptation to start trying to pull out some of those reflected lights in areas like this to just try and bring a little bit more complexity to tone. Like, you see that subtle, but a little bit of reflected light can really help. Not too much. I'm going to call it there. It's one of those drawings I'm not, I know, being picky, but I'm not too happy with, and I just don't want to spend the time on it. I don't think there's much here that I want to bother salvaging, so I'm going to move on to the next pose. All right, let's do that. Thank you, appreciate it. Appreciate it. Really. Oof. Okay, we got a tricky one. Let's see what we have left, because we're already at 6:20. Time has been. Oh, and pose number 4 is really, I'm really looking forward to. All right, we may have to speed things up just a little bit. Thank you very much, Nina. I appreciate it. Okay, let's see. Because at the very least, I'd like to get through the next 2 poses. The 5th one would be maybe fun for a 2-minute gesture or something. I'm inclined, I'm going to say this tentatively now, but I'm inclined to make this a slightly quicker pose. Let's see how we go. I'm leaning towards maybe a 15-minute on this one, and then giving the majority of the time to the 4th pose. Let's see. He's only happy when he's ranting. How dare you, Rick? Alright. Reset. Let's do it. Now, this one's going to be... The challenge with this one is going to be the composition of getting everything on the page. Boris, welcome. Thanks very much. All right. Yeah. Really about the overall logistics. One of the things I'm looking at, so for example, I'm using this point right here, which is kind of where the ACES comes, or where we have the ACES. I think what we're really getting there is the tension of the rectus femoris sitting right there. But it's kind of suggesting to us where the ACES is. And then we can see the iliac crest kind of doing this type of thing. I'm using that kind of like as a pretty major measuring point to give me a sense of where this knee is in length, overall distance. And then I'm, you know, luckily from that knee, we can see that the heel of this foot is probably going to be about here, right? Maybe in a bit. Let's see, I'm not going to get too tied up with that, but this gives me a kind of a general, very general ballpark of where I might be looking to put the heel of that left foot. Also, ACES is there. We can see the bottom region of the pelvis there. And this leg is kind of doing this. ACES once again coming up, this leg sitting here, knee roughly at shoulder level. So it's going to be doing something like that, right? So this is kind of like, you know, my measuring process, kind of talking about it out loud. Once again, we only want to get in the ballpark right now. There's plenty of time to, you know, yeah, the negative shapes. So for example, what are we looking at here? And once again, as a form of measurement, the negative shape in here between the knee and the pectoral muscle, sitting here, this triangle. This is a pretty important negative shape. Another one's going to be just where, you know, this arm coming down and then this triangle sitting in here. And once again, all things that we can piece together to help our decision-making process. Now, the neurobrain is going to be sitting about here. This arm coming up this way. And then the hand, very, very, very cool shape to that hand. Sitting there, holding on to her ankle-ish, just above. Margot says, curious why you chose portrait over landscape for this one. Because Margot, I'll tell you what makes the decision for me on this. It feels square. The composition, it fits within the boundary box of square, right? So whether my additional extra real estate is above and below or to the sides doesn't really matter, right? Like, it all fits with, as I said, within the boundary boxes of a square format. That's kind of, and I'm one of the cues I look for in that is I'm looking at the way I crop the photo, because I'm sure that this photo, well, with all of them, I crop them all to try and get us in as tight as we can, for obvious reasons. So I'm looking at the overall box of the image, and I'm like, okay, that's square, so it doesn't really matter. If it had leant one way or the other, I would have then maybe switched to landscape. But we can see the head of the humerus sitting right about here. And, so then it might just be a case of how you maybe want to present the finished piece might have a say in what type of paper you use or the orientation you use it in. So yeah, of course. You're welcome. Sternocleidomastoid coming up this way. Neck sitting there. Pectoral. And then we can see that that breast is sitting essentially where it kind of almost meets up with that leg, right? So once again, useful form of measurement. Hmm. Head's too big. Although maybe it's a tiny bit. Yeah, just bring it down to there. Should do. My proportions are a little naff, but maybe we can push and pull as we get into it. Alright, so we're at 12 minutes. I said what, 15? 15 is highly optimistic. I just need to turn my heater off here. So yeah, my proportions are off with the lower part here, which would explain this, blah blah blah. So I'm going to make some fixes, but they're going to be pretty rough and ready. So Aces is down here. Because some things are in the right place, and some things aren't. Keep all of this where it is. Pull that knee down to about there, I think. We won't commit just yet. So this is my new Aces. Okay. Chandelier. Sorry, I'm just catching up with the thing. What's your favourite pen? B, 2B, 3B, HB? Pencil. I think you'll find. I use 6B charcoal for the stream. Oh, not just for the stream, for my work. In graphite, it really depends on what it is that what it is I'm doing. Just depends on, yeah, really depends on the task. Like you know, if I'm doing something like animation on paper, probably just work with a B, even an HB. Although even in that, like you know, there's other pencils that I might use that would be not graphite based, more wax based pencils, which would be probably my first choice. Look at that, where the head of the humerus is here, we got such an interesting kind of turn of form. Yeah. Let's get that effect going. Alright, I'm under no illusion this drawing is going to be we're going to be polishing the proverbial pig's ear, but I am kind of curious to see it through at this point. I'm curious what some of you guys are using as far as for your figure drawing. How many of you are working with charcoal? How many of you are working with graphite? I know Margot, I think you're allergic to charcoal, right? So you're using graphite, I'm guessing. I am curious what people are using. And you will be judged on your answers. I do think, you know, speaking to what you were asking earlier, Margot, I don't think I still maintain the thing with this square was fine, but I could have used the real estate on the right side of the page, to be honest. Chalk and blackboard, solid, Lulu. That's gangster. You are not saving any drawings. Start to there. Charcoal. I'm assuming you mean graphite. And sometimes iPad. Nice. You're using the Tombos. Nice, Margot. Okay. Yeah, Margot. You're clearly dedicated to the cause. Do yourself a favour. If you can work with the charcoal pencils, give yourself a chance with them. Charcoal, nice. Pit and wolf. Pit, I know. Wolf, I don't. Carpenter mechanical pen. All right. .6 millimeter, 4B graphite. All right. On copier paper, solid choice. Fair enough, Rick. It's a good enough reason. What is the ideal time to draw? Asks Michael. What an interesting question. Do you have a preference for long or short poses in your work? Is there a difference? Well, to answer this in reverse, yes, there's a huge difference in whether you're doing a long form or short form. In saying that, whether I'm doing a long form drawing or a short form, the steps of my process are, for the most part, the same, but I've kind of discussed this a little bit. I haven't discussed it too much because it's something I actually plan on making a video about to try and get my thoughts across, because I think it needs demos and it needs explaining properly. I tend to have two different, I tend to approach gesture differently when I'm doing long form as opposed to short form. They're both gesture in my mind, but they are different. The spirit of them is the same. So yeah, but it's really hard to explain without starting to show examples and stuff. But I like doing both, although I never generally, the longest I tend to generally draw something out is probably, well, 40 minutes. I've done a few poses a little longer than that, but I don't remember the last time I spent more than an hour on a drawing. I don't like long drawings. They bore me. I should probably change that mentality. It's probably not a healthy approach. Certainly it's not something I would endorse or recommend for other people. I'd say if you like doing long form, good. There's a value to it. I'm just monumentally impatient. Okay, the proportions kind of correct themselves here, and we've spent way longer on this drawing than I had wanted to. But here we are. And coming back to your question, Michael, what is the ideal time to draw? That's I've never been asked that before. I do think that's interesting. Um, I tend to look. I certainly think that one size. This is definitely a case of one size does not fit all. Some people are very much night owls, and some people are very much day people or morning people. I will say though, I tend to want to wake up properly. So I don't generally draw as soon as I wake up. I've had periods where the only time I've really been truly happy drawing is at like, late at night. I've been, in periods of my life, I've been both a night person and a morning person. I think there's something very appealing to drawing or doing any creative thing in the middle of the night when the rest of the world is quiet. Especially, like, I would say that, when I had a young family, waiting till everyone had gone to bed and then sitting down to draw, knowing that there was nothing kind of required of me and that the house was quiet, I did enjoy those sessions very much. I would say generally though, probably nowadays, I probably don't really get cracking till about early afternoon, mid-afternoon. I did draw this morning though, after saying all that. It just depends, But I'm planning on doing a lot more drawing over the coming weeks and months. I feel like I've just, like, the last 6 months or so, I have not been that productive, and that's all about to change. So I can feel an urge of creativity coming on. And I got certain things I want to get done. So yeah. Real men use rock to draw, granite based. Well, we are all using carbon, right? At the end of the day. Drawing in the middle of the night when everyone else is asleep makes you feel like productive like nothing else. It doesn't it? It's a lovely feeling. Yes, good chance I'll draw later tonight when the lights are all off in the house. Although our kids are grown up now, so I don't really do it for that reason. I wouldn't be doing it for that reason any longer. More just for personal satisfaction. Well, we got there in the end. Let's get that drop shadow in. Don't want Mila judging any more than she already has. Now I have Penny to keep me company in the middle of the night as I draw. You know what? That lazy good for nothing little dog. No, she goes to bed at like 10 o'clock. You can tell when she's ready to go to bed. You can tell when she's overtired because she starts getting like hyper, but not in like a healthy way. Just like manic. And then we put her to bed, put her in her crate, which she loves going into. And she'll just be out all night till like 9 o'clock in the morning. She's the laziest little puppy, I swear to God. Oh, I love her. So yeah, no, there's no her keeping me company. Are you kidding me? She's upstairs sawing logs with the wife. All right, I'm gonna move on from this drawing. It's meh. It's fine. Okay, so here's the thing. We got 5 minutes. I had wanted to. I'm kind of upset now. I wanted to do this next pose as a long pose, and the one after it as a short pose. But no, it doesn't matter, because there's always more poses. So we will do this next pose as a 5-minute pose. Okay? Pose number 4. We won't skip. Unless we save this for another session. Okay, we have a really quick vote. It's like the first 3 or 4 of you to answer are going to get the thing. We're going to do one 5-minute pose. Do you want it to be pose number 4 or pose number 5? We have a delay, so I will wait for you guys to get on to me. Jose's out. Yeah, have a good one, Jose. Take care, man. Alright, pose 4 or pose 5? Save it. It's a great pose, says Petra. Petra checking in. Save number 4, huh? Well, Petra's the only one giving me feedback. Petra's gonna... Alex is saying draw number 4. So now we have a tie. Alright. Can we wait? Oh, Petra's saying draw 5. Pose 4 is way too difficult for a 5-minute sketch, but it's so cool. I'll take that as drawing number 5. Look, let's draw pose 5. Let's save number 4. Yeah, Margot, French is going to just make things more complicated. Number 5? What am I waiting for? We're going to go over now because I'm waiting. Well, let's draw number 5. We'll save number 4. Maybe we'll draw this. Shall we draw this model again next week? Maybe. All right. Number 5. I thought I'd get more feedback to that question, quite honestly. All right, number 5. Let's do it. Number 5, we'll do for 5, and we'll save number 4. And I'm going to take number 4 down because I like the pose that much. I was really looking forward to drawing it. All right. Timer is going. 5 minutes. Let's do it. It's a difficult pose, actually. Margot's on the couch. We've got people dropping like flies here. What's going on? Camera. I can't move that up any further, unfortunately. No, that's it. You're going to miss out on her foot. Really interesting shape language to contend with here. Those are just too soft, those pencils. Really need to just stop using them. Yeah, I'm going to go over a little bit here. It's kind of a fascinating pose. Where are we at? 6 minutes. Alright, let's wrap this puppy up. I think we'll call it there. Guys, we made it. And we are saving pose 4. So yeah, look, there's a very good chance we might just draw this model again next week. As I said, I've really enjoyed drawing her, and it was so difficult to even pick these 5 poses. Honestly, there was so many good ones of her. So I'd be strongly inclined to do it all again. Hope that would work for you guys. Yeah, Margot, in all seriousness, feel better. Hope you're okay. Lots of chat going on with them. I feel like I'm missing the party. Yeah, we'll agree with Mila on Lulu's English being top notch. You would just think that you were brought up as an English speaker, Lulu. It's true. Yeah, guys, it's been a good one. Sorry, I'm just catching up with chat there. All right, we'll do it all again next week. You know what I might do? No promises. But maybe we'll do a Monday session and finish that maybe a short Monday session. Okay, here's what we'll do, because I'm in the mood. So we'll do a session on Monday, I think. Just checking my calendar very, very quickly, guys. Sorry. I think I'm free Monday. Yes. Okay, we're going to do a session on Monday, a short session, like an hour-ish, all right? And we're going to finish up the last pose from her, this one, and maybe we'll throw in a couple of others. Maybe we'll do that one as kind of like a long pose, and maybe bookend it with a couple of 10-minute poses or something, a couple of other ones of her, and then we'll resume with our normal schedule on the Thursday. So let's plan on that. Plan on, if you're free, let's meet up on Monday. I'll be here. Hopefully you can join me. But as I said, a short one. Seems like the microphone has worked okay. I'm guessing you guys have been able to hear me okay throughout the session today. Maybe I didn't need to have it clipped onto me this whole time. How about that? And that is quite freeing. Monday works for you, Rick. Well, if it works for Rick, then need I say more? We will do that then. Same bat time, same bat channel. You know the drill. Do me a favor, hit the like button on the way out. Throw a comment in the video once it's done, if you like. Apparently that helps the algorithm too. You don't have to, but if you feel so inclined to, you know, help boost this thing, it's always appreciated. Monday it is. In the meantime, Margot, get better. Okay, that's an order. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. And thanks for joining me. And have a wonderful weekend. Take care of yourselves. I will see you all hopefully on Monday. Cheers, guys. Take care.